This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We continue in the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh. We're up to Ois Nun Hey. The Rosh says, Al tasa davar she'al igu habriyos. Don't do something that people will mock. Shedarkam laha'alim hatoivos. It is the derech of people to cover up that which is good, ulagalos harois, and to reveal that which is bad. Now, what kind of thing is the Rosh saying you should not do because people will mock you? Is he saying not to do a mitzvah? Obviously, he's not saying don't do bad things that people will mock, because you shouldn't do them even if people won't mock them because they're not good things. Does the Rosh mean a person should not do a mitzvah because people will mock you? We know in the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, the Shulchan Aruch tells us that do not refrain from doing mitzvahs even though people will mock you. So Rabbi Zolti in the Perish Makar HaChaim, he writes that obviously the Rosh is talking about mili de chasidus, meaning certainly a certain saintly, very extra pious type of behavior, that it's not outright halacha, and you're not required to do it. So therefore, if you feel that people are going to mock it, it's just not worth it. That these are not, it's not obligatory, it's not mandatory. You're doing it out of your own pious practice, so you should forsake it if it's going to cause people to mock it, because the derech of people is in the way they present it. They're going to cover up whatever good element there is, and they're going to magnify whatever they find questionable. Now, this is similar to what the Mesilas Yesharim famously writes in Perek Chaf, that if there's a tosefes of chasidus, certain extra saintly practices, that if you do them in front of people, they're going to mock you, they're going to make fun of you, and you're causing them to sin. You're the cause of their sinning. And you didn't have to do them. It's not an outright chayva. So therefore, something like this, it's better for the chassid to forsake it than to do it. In other words, says Mesilas Yesharim, anything which is an ikr, you should do it, even if someone's going to mock you. Anything which is not an ikr, and it's going to cause people to mock you, don't do it. And Rabbi Zolti says he heard from Rabbi Lapian and Rabbi Cheskel Levenstein that from the Altar of Kelm, that when the Mesilas Yesharim says, and when the Rosh says, that don't do something that people are going to mock, it's talking about Chasidus. The only thing is, later on in Ois Ayin Zayin, the Rosh says, don't forsake the derech of Chasidus even though they're going to mock you. So in other words, the Rosh there says, even if it's not an outright mitzvah, even if it's just an extra saintly practice, if you have a certain chumrah, you should do it even if people are going to make fun of you. So then now we have a stira. Because here in Ois Nun Hey, the Rosh says, don't do something, and we said it's referring to chasidus. It can't be referring to an actual mitzvah. The Rosh is saying, don't do something that people are going to mock, and it's talking about chasidus. And later on Ayin Zayin, the Rosh says, don't forsake the path of chasidus, even though they're going to mock you. So Rabbi Zolti said he heard in the name of Rabbi Elia Lapian from he heard in the name of the Altar of Kelm from Rabbi Elia Lapian and Rabbi Cheskel Levenstein that the Rosh and the Mesilas Yesharim that say you should forsake a chasidus, you should forsake a saintly practice because people are going to mock you, that's if it's an isolated, particular behavior that may cause somebody to mock it. But if this is your derech of chasidus, if this is your general path in life, then you should continue it even though it's not required, and even if people are going to mock you. Now Rav Goldberg says that in his commentary to Mesilas Yesharim called Ubay Sidbak, he also addresses this question. How do you reconcile the Mesilas Yesharim that says you should forsake chasidus if people are going to mock it, with that which the Rosh says that al yaniach derech hachasidus? And Rav Goldberg brings from the Altar of Kelm that if it's something that you just decided to do, you want to do a good thing, but it's not a primary part of your avodah, then if people are going to mock it, you should forsake it. However, if this is a principal part of your avodah, if this is a fundamental part of your personal avodah, you feel that you need this hanhaga to fight the Yetzer Hara, this is going to enhance your particular avodah, then in such a situation, you should continue it like the Rosh says later on. Now, Rav Goldberg says something very interesting. He brings the commentary on the Orchos Chaim of the Ari Cheskel, Rabbi Glatstein, who in the beginning of his words, he seems to differentiate between something which is just a saintly practice and a derech of Hasidus in general. But then he seems to distinguish between what kind of Risha'im we're talking about. If it's a lahachis person, somebody who is mocking you just for the sake of it, just to put down good kind of behavior, so he's out, the person is doing it to be spiteful, so then the Rosh says later on in Ois Ayin Zayin, then you should not forsake the derech of Chasidus. However, here we're talking about a regular innocent person who might be a little bit of an Amma Aretz, and when they see such saintly behavior, they may mock it, they may make light of it. So then, under those circumstances, one to avoid causing the person to be nichshal. In other words, if the Rasha is lahachis, so I'm not causing him to make a mistake. It's not like he's making an innocent mistake. This is he has a shita to try to mock avodas Hashem. Then even if it's a milsa de chasidus, you should still be noyeg it. That's what the Rosh means in Ayin Zayin. But here in Ois Nun Hey, what the Rosh is saying is, it's talking about an innocent kind of person. By the way, in the Perush Oirach Yesharim that Rav Goldberg quotes, he brings in the name of the son-in-law of the wife of Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld that the difference is between the kind of mockers we're discussing. Maligim, mockers that are not choishesh, and they don't care about anything, so then you continue to practice most of the chasidus in their presence. But if it's innocent, unlearned people, then if the custom that you're doing is not absolutely mandatory, then it's better not to practice it in their presence. Okay, that concludes Ois Nun Hey B'ez Hashem. Tomorrow we'll see Ois Nun Vav. Wishing everyone a wonderful night. Bracha v'atzlacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.